Around here, we celebrate our culture, our community, and our contributions daily. But this year, as we observe the 100th anniversary of Black History Month celebrations, we're excited about our annual KBLA Talk 1580 Black History Month Luncheon, honoring comedy greats. On Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum in downtown LA, we're toasting D.L. Hughley, Melanie Camacho, Earthquake, Munell, Dion Cole, and Martin Lawrence with a surprise guest appearance. A limited number of individual tickets for the luncheon remain, so now would be a good time to head to KBLA1580.com to secure one for yourself. That's KBLA1580.com. A little laughter goes a long way, especially in times like these. So come, join us for our annual KBLA Talk 1580 Black History Month Luncheon, Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum. Again, tickets are available right now at KBLA1580.com.
Well, I hang around my boy. He's been married for 6 years. Videotaped his wedding day, never watched it. Now and every day he watch it every day, but he watch it in reverse. Because he said he loves seeing himself take that ring back off of that finger. Walking back down that aisle, just waving at her ugly mother down the church. Getting back in the limo, back at the bachelor party. Look how happy I was.
KBLA Talk 1580 thanks LA City Council members Curran D. Price Jr. and Heather Hutt for being the presenting sponsors at this year's Black History Month Luncheon. Honoring excellence, resilience, and achievement, we're KBLA Talk 1580.
Your host, Adrianne Shropshire, and today is Black Love Day and Valentine's Eve, I guess, for folks who celebrate. I haven't listened. Andy, I was saying to Tavis a couple weeks ago that I haven't actually listened to Prince since Prince passed. It's hard for me to listen to his music, but I'm so glad you played that. That was perfect for the moment. So yes, it is Black Love Day. And with so much going on, I think that having this day is a reminder, right, of what we as a community have always done in hard times, and that is to practice love. And so joining us to discuss this and more is Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis, Senior Minister and Public Theologian at Middle Church in Manhattan. Welcome, Pastor.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me. Happy Black Love Day.
Happy Black Love Day. So I was complaining to Andy before the show that I was not included in the Black People Zoom call that designated this day as Black Love Day. It's like someone did not send me the link when we made this designation.
I was. But here we are now, right?
But
we get to join in.
Here we are.
Yeah.
And what's perfect is that on the Middle Church Instagram page, in your profile, it says, "We believe in the power of love." And while, I think folks often think about it, particularly with Valentine's Day, folks think about love in romantic terms, right? I think the expression of love, particularly in moments like this, is much more than that. So can you talk with our listeners a little bit about the role that love plays in grounding us, even in hard times like this?
That's such a beautiful question. Thank you so much. I think that in itself is a gift to your listeners. One, Valentine's Day is a real thing. It's located in Catholicism and St. Valentine and a massacre, and we celebrate love on that day. But there is a kind of forced sense of that, right? And that, get some flowers, get some roses, get some chocolate, and then people feel lonely on a day like today. But what I think is the most profound kind of love, and you know I'm a Christian pastor, but this kind of love that is the most profound kind of love is actually across all the world's major religions. And it's love your neighbor as yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself. The Muslims say, don't withhold from anyone what they need for themselves. Also, Zoroastrians and Buddhists. Jews say, love the stranger, because you were once a stranger, right? Christians say, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. But all of this, and, you know, we're black women, so I'm going to say all of this is grounded in an ancient philosophy of Ubuntu that says, I am who I am because you are who you are.
Yeah.
I can't be who I am until you are who you are. So I want to say in this moment, this idea of the kind of love of humanity, that we are each other's people. And we actually do complete each other. Our destinies are intertwined. And I want to say this is the kind of love that can lift us up.
Yes.
So sorry. When we feel despair, it's a kind of love that can purpose us toward justice. And it's the kind of love that's needed right now so we can really heal our souls and heal the world.
That is so, thank you so much for that. I mean, it is, you know, I think both a reflection of, you know, what we should be aspiring to, but it's also so clearly a reflection of what we're seeing in so many parts of this country right now, right? It's a reflection of what we're seeing in Minneapolis and St. Paul and throughout greater Minnesota. It's a reflection of what we're seeing, you know, as people attempt to do mutual aid, right, across the country, understanding that folks are struggling. But so thank you so much for that, and reminding us that this is grounded, you know, in a multitude of faith traditions. Oftentimes not followed by
there's that.
right by the very folks who claim those religions. So but when we come forward, I want to talk to you a little bit more about this, about how we think about what you call, right, fierce love, right? You have a whole book, right, called Fierce Love. So I want to talk a little bit more about that when we come forward with the Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis. Stay with us.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
Oh, could this vintage store be any cuter?
Right? And the best part? They accept Discover.
Accept Discover? In a little place like this? I don't think so, Jennifer.
Oh, yeah, huh? Discover's accepted where I like to shop. Come on, baby, get with the times.
Right, so we shouldn't get the parachute pants?
These are making a comeback. I think.
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Based on the February 2025 Nielsen report.
It's tax time, y'all. If you want to file free, this next one's for you.
Now taxes is so free. Tax free edition only. Roughly 37% of filers qualify. Simple form 1040 returns only. Now this is tax.
Love that jam. Up next, commercials.
Intuit TurboTax Free Edition. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free. No schedules except for Earned Income Tax Credit, Child Tax Credit, Student Loan Interest, and Schedule 1A.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver Card, so let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything. The Capital One Saver Card is at table 27, and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu.
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver Card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's get back to more of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to the Black Pack, and we are in conversation with the Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis, Senior Minister and Public Theologian at Middle Church in New York. So you talk about fierce love, right? You have a book called Fierce Love. And I wonder if you might share with the listeners what you mean by that. What does it mean to have and to show fierce love?
Adrianne, thank you. I mean, we are seeing fierce love pop up around our nation. When white Minnesotan protesters stand in between ICE and their Spanish-looking, Hispanic-seeming neighbors, that's fierce love. When we straight black women stand up for our queer colleagues who have had the flag removed, right, from Stonewall, that's fierce love. Yeah. When Katrina happened, right? When Sandy happened, when we wade in the tepid waters to save our neighbors' lives, when we feed our neighbors' kids, we know what this is. I think, Adrianne, this is like the first human impulse. The first human impulse was to run into the fire to save the other because we knew we were connected. And we lost that with capitalism and colonialism. So fierce love is the willingness to join with your neighbor in the pursuit of a just society and to know that you might have what they need, and it's actually our job to make sure they have it. Because when it's your turn, that's what they do.
And I want to just, in case folks weren't aware of this, I want to just put a pin in the point that you just made about the rainbow flag being taken down from Stonewall in New York. And it's not just the sort of removal, the like offense of removing the flag, but it's also historical erasure. Because what happened to Stonewall? Like what happened
at Stonewall was the trans black women, right, literally started a revolution when they were being harassed by New York police, and they were like, not on our watch, with their heels and their beauty and their power, and they just stood up and started a pride movement. By the way, inspired by our African American black Southern Freedom Movement, right? We taught people how to stand up, like white capitalism taught people how to be apartheid. So it is really true, Adrianne, that there is a kind of muscle memory. The place that makes me just not want to crawl up in a ball and cry all day is I think we have a muscle memory to march across the bridge for voting rights, right? To link arms against the Vietnam War, to stand for our queer siblings, to stand up for women's suffrage, to get the right to vote. Good people all over time have understood that love is stronger than hate and that love insists on justice. That's what's fierce about love.
Right. And so when we think about folks who in this moment, though, are feeling the need to shrink, right, to pull back, who have legitimate fear in this moment, as we have seen, as you have said, across time, right, in this country, being afraid and afraid of what's happening, but also just pulling back because it somehow diminishes, for them, it feels like it's diminishing what their dreams and possibilities are as well, right? What do you say to those folks in this moment who feel that fear, and whether it's about what's happening and whether or not they can stand up, or if it's about, well, we're going into this terrible moment, I'm going to have to pull back everything I ever thought I was going to be. What do you say to those folks?
That's such a good question, Adrian. You know, this kind of love neighbor, love self has that part about love self, you know? And I want to say that sometimes love self means I need to go home and take a bath. I need to play with my kids. I need to rest. I need to be introverted. I need to love on my own self because it's traumatic out there, girl. You know it is. Yeah. But so that kind of sense of like a dance of I'm loving myself and I increase my resilience. I increase my stamina. And now I can get back in the river working for justice, right? And then it's someone else's turn and I can step out. Just a dance of in and out of self-love and other love, self-love and other love. We know, Black women, we've depleted ourselves over time to make this nation better. And sometimes we need to take a nap or go have some champagne and sit down.
Yes.
So there's a kind of reality of you actually can't love your neighbor if you don't love yourself. That's one piece. And quickly, another piece, though, is some of the people who are quiet, Adrienne, and we know who they are, they actually must demand a more just society. They can't cover their eyes. They can't close their ears. They know who they are. They made the wrong decision in this election. They benefit from what happens in the culture. And there's some braveness that needs to happen, a combination of braveness and also loving yourself when you're tired, I think is what's required right now.
Yeah. I want to play a clip right quick of you, and then I want to ask you a question about it.
In the Black folks tradition, we understood that church was a rehearsal for the reign of God on earth, but we also understood that it was a classroom. It was a classroom to learn how to vote. It was a classroom to learn how to organize each other in order to do peaceful demonstrations. And it was a place to chart a path toward freedom. And I think today the church has to be that kind of training ground. It should not be unusual if a church is being a training ground. It should be a classroom, not just about what the Bible says, but what the Bible means, about what is implied by these scriptures. We ought to be running to the classrooms that help us to exposit the text. And we ought to be crowded in the spaces where we're teaching each other how to use our own emotional IQ to make a difference in the world, to speak the truth, to cast a vision, to collaborate with others, because this is not a solo project.
So I wanted to just sort of bring that concept into this conversation as well, because I think, again, you know, people are feeling overwhelmed in this moment. People, you know, I know when the ICE raid started here in Los Angeles, there was a sense of isolation, right, for people. You know, we're having our fundamental rights stripped away, right? Our voices are being silenced and erased, right, from history. And there's so much every day on social media, on cable news, that it's easy to just tune it all out. But I wanted to ask you about both the, you know, how do we encourage people not to do that? And then what are the spaces, right, that are required right now? What is the role of the church in sort of creating those spaces for community?
Oh, great. You know, my great uncle George Jordan was a trustee at the church, St. James Chapel, where Fannie Lou Hamer got called into ministry. When I found that out, Adrienne, I was like, what? My mother used to pick cotton with Fannie Lou Hamer, right? And what we know is that in those churches where you went and you sang and you ate good food and you wore your nice clothes and you were dignified and people gave you respect, that was a training ground of human power, of love power. And so I want to answer the last part of your question first. The faith communities, I think, are responsible, Adrienne, for that, no matter what our faith is, to sort of say to people, this is the promise of tomorrow. The promise from God's, let's say God's plan for the world is healing and wholeness and joy, and everyone has enough. Like, quite simply, everyone has enough. So church, mosques, synagogues, gurdwaras, they ought to rehearse that reality by the way they do community, by the way they involve children, by the way they make sort of equal status, no matter how much money you make or what kind of hat you wear. Church ought to be a rehearsal for the future and now breaking in sort of shalom of God. That's one piece. And I think the second piece is that even if you're just by yourself meditating or in a yoga studio or, people get their faith on in so many different kinds of ways. I want to encourage people to be sort of opening their hearts for an inspiration that we are not alone on this planet. Like, next to you on that mat, next to you in a grocery store, next to you at work is another human being. And you might be the one that causes them to know that they are valued and that you love them and that together you are more powerful than by yourself. That happens. That can happen on the subway, that you just decide to dignify the other human, and it's contagious, Adrianne, that love begets love.
Yeah, I think that's. I thank you for that story about your grandfather and your mother and Miss Hamer, because I think that there's also those churches and churches now really have the opportunity to be the places where people also go to. We're having a conversation about love and what it means to have fierce love and expansive love, and churches have historically, certainly in Black communities, been the places where you also get that, right, where you get filled up.
That's right.
And that feels really important in this moment. And we've seen clergy, right, across the country really step in to the chaos of this moment, right? Whether it's clergy here in LA or in Chicago or in DC, in Minnesota. I mean, I continue to be struck by, and I'm remiss because I don't remember his name, but one of the clergy who was speaking at a rally in Minneapolis, and he was talking to the fellow clergy, and he said essentially, like, this is the moment where you are going to have to get your things in order. Right.
That's right.
Prepare
That's
your
right.
wills. Right.
That's
Get
That's
your
right.
business in
That's
order because you're being called on to do. You are going to be called on to do something greater. And so I just wonder your perspective on that as well. Not just sort of what role should the churches as physical places be playing in being classrooms, right? As you said in your sermon, but also the role of clergy in this moment that feels historically very reminiscent of other times in America's history when clergy have had to stand in the gap.
Yes, period. During the Summer Freedom Movement, during the Southern Freedom Movement, during the 1960s, the Freedom Rides, Dr. King putting a call out to clergy across faiths to come be here and to not be quiet, right? To not be silent. King feared the moderate, quiet clergy were more dangerous even than the Ku Klux Klan. So, this is that moment, Adrianne, and it is that moment across the country and across the globe where we who are clergy must be brave in the service of emboldening our congregants, right? Clergy aren't going to do this by ourselves. In fact, as a Protestant, we have this thing called the priesthood of all believers, meaning everybody who has faith is a priest. Everybody who has faith is a minister. And so faith in God anoints you. Faith in God ordains you. Faith in love ordains you. And what that means to me is, Adrianne, no kidding, this is the worst time. I'm a Black woman of a certain age. This is the worst time of my sentient, able to do something about it, life. So everybody who believes in goodness, love, moral courage, a kind society, we are called to take a risk. Getting our lives in order means being willing to stand in the space where love is dangerous, Adrianne, or our children will not be in an America that you and I have ever recognized. It's that dangerous. When rapists get elected to be presidents, when a liar gets to be the attorney general, when truth doesn't even, like, nobody cares if you lie as long as you do it well.
Right.
When social services are disrupted, when immigrants are being treated like criminals, when Jesus is an immigrant, girl.
Right.
When this is the most horrific time.
Yeah.
And I think the question we should ask ourselves is, what would love have me to do today to make this world better for me and my kids, for me and my family? And if that's what drives us, we'll be in the streets, we'll take risks, we'll be in the danger zone, like those kids at the luncheon counters, right? Like those people watching across the bridge. This is not a pretty, prissy time. It is a time for risk-taking to demand a loving society in which we're all safe.
Yeah. So what are you preaching about on Sunday? Do tell.
Well, Sunday we're doing Asian History Month, and I'm not preaching on Sunday.
Okay.
But the next Sunday, I'm preaching on Micah and do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. And we say those words sometimes, Adrianne, like a roll off our tongue. And what do we mean? What does it mean to do justice? How do you vote? How do you spend your money? Where do you consume your news? What does it mean to love mercifully? How do you care for your neighbor and the world and the globe? How do you care for Gaza and Sudan? And then to walk humbly with God. If we're going to walk with God, we're going to have to take off a certain kind of shoe. We're going to have to take off and put on an outfit that puts us in the wilderness, where God is going to show us what is required. That's what I'm doing on the 22nd of February.
Okay. And can people stream your service?
Yes, they can.
And where do they do it?
We're at middlechurch.org, and our YouTube channel has present worship every Sunday at 11:45 Eastern Time, but also all kinds of worship to look at all week long with beautiful art and music from people like Titus Burgess and Nora Jones and Annie DeFranco, and we just have all kinds of beautiful art that will heal your heart and make you feel ready to get in the streets.
Well, I want to thank you, Reverend Jackie, for coming on and talking to us about love and fierce love, but also about, what all of us need to be called to do in this moment. I really appreciate it. I think it's a good message. You gave us a whole word. It doesn't have to be Sunday. You gave us a whole word to think about, and hopefully people will stream your services and get to hear your sermons on Sundays as well. So thank you so much. It's Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis, Senior Minister at Middle Church in New York. On the other side, we're going to talk about Black narratives and storytelling with the folks from Media 2070. Stay with us.
More of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Journalist and former CNN anchor Don Lemon has pleaded not guilty to federal charges tied to an anti-ICE protest at a St. Paul church last month.
I will not be intimidated. I will not back down. I will fight these baseless charges, and I will not be silenced.
Lemon spoke to reporters after his arraignment Friday, saying he was there reporting as an independent journalist. An internal email shows Black Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass directed media strategy following the Palisades fire, according to the LA Times. The email suggests Bass oversaw damage control efforts after federal prosecutors linked the blaze to a rekindled fire. State Representative Taylor Collins says job postings at the University of Iowa may violate a 2024 law banning DEI offices and hiring criteria at public universities. Collins referred 3 listings to Attorney General Brenna Byrd for review. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Boyle Heights, the northbound 5 at the 10 split, crash in the left lane. Heavy traffic behind is not helping. The crawl from the 60, South LA, the northbound 110 at Adams, a stall in the left lane, brake lights from Exposition. Sepulveda Pass, the northbound 405 at the Getty Center. We've got a stall still over in the HOV lane. A lot of northbound traffic through here. 45 minutes from the 10 to the 101. It's going to be 30 minutes on that reverse.
Head to Waba Grill weekdays after 3 p.m. for their $5 happy hour and try their new chili chili crisp dumplings. Bold, crunchy, and tossed in a fiery crisp, paired with a premium Wah beverage drink like their authentic Thai tea. Get both for just $5 only at Waba Grill. It's for you.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Chris Paul, one of the greatest point guards to ever play in the NBA, announced his retirement today after 21 seasons. Paul played 7 of those seasons with the Clippers. The 12-time All-Star is a member of the NBA's 75th anniversary team. He led the league in assists 5 times and was a 9-time selection to the All-Defense team. He'll be a first-ballot Hall of Famer in 2031. The Lakers have a decision to make. Luka Doncic was the leading vote-getter for Sunday's NBA All-Star game, but he's missed the last 4 games with a hamstring injury. It could be disastrous if Doncic tries to play Sunday and gets hurt again. Tonight at 6, you can get your Friday night sports fix with Out of Bounds in prime time. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough for 60 minutes of sports chatter with some black folks flavor. You're welcome to hang out with us on the KBLA YouTube channel or hit us up at 1-800-920-1580. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
What's up? What's up? What's up? We got to laugh the pain away.
Hey, KBLA delegation, happy Black History Month. Around here, we celebrate our culture, our community, and our contributions daily. But this year, as we observe the 100th anniversary of Black History Month celebrations, we're excited about our annual KBLA Talk 1580 Black History Month Luncheon, honoring comedy greats. On Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum in downtown LA, we're toasting D.L. Hughley, Melanie Camacho, Earthquake, Munell, Dion Cole, and Martin Lawrence with a surprise guest appearance. A limited number of individual tickets for the luncheon remain, so now would be a good time to head to KBLA1580.com to secure one for yourself. That's KBLA1580.com. A little laughter goes a long way, especially in times like these. So come, join us for our annual KBLA Talk 1580 Black History Month Luncheon, Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum. Again, tickets are available right now at KBLA1580.com.
Well, I hang around my boy. He been married for 6 years. Videotaped his wedding day, never watched it. Now and every day he watch it every day, but he watch it in reverse. Because he said he loves seeing himself take that ring back off of that finger. Walking back down that aisle, just waving at her ugly mother down the church. Getting back in the limo, back at the bachelor party. Look how happy I was.
KBLA Talk 1580 thanks LA City Council members Curran D. Price Jr. and Heather Hutt for being the presenting sponsors at this year's Black History Month Luncheon. Honoring excellence, resilience, and achievement, we're KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. Every girl deserves a chance to shine. That's the belief behind Forgiving for Living, Inc. Since 1999, this organization has been empowering at-risk girls ages 13 to 18, helping them overcome behavioral and mental health challenges. Founder Wendy Gladney's personal journey inspired the mission to give girls hope and purpose through the power of forgiveness. Through their ambassador program, workshops, and annual conference, Forgiving for Living has touched over 3,000 young lives, providing mentoring, life skills, training, and tools for building self-esteem and confidence. You can make a difference. Visit forgivingforliving.org to donate, volunteer, become a mentor, or find help for a young girl in need. Forgiving for Living, Inc., building brighter futures for young girls. Visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
You're inside the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is the Black Pack, and we are having broad and deep conversations today. We just finished a conversation before the break about love and action, and the need for us to be engaged and create community with one another. And we're going to talk a little bit about what it means and the importance of telling Black stories right now. I'm so glad to be joined by Tia Osa, the Senior Director of Media 2070. Welcome back, Tia. How are you?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for joining us again. I know that hopefully we're going to be joined by one of your colleagues, but I wanted to at least at first say congratulations. I think when we talked last, Media 2070 was not an independent project, and now it is. So I want to say congratulations on that. And then also just to sort of, maybe kick off the conversation, we are in a moment, right, where we're seeing, all kinds of shifts, capitulation within the broader media ecosystem. I think we probably talked about this when you were on last too, but it just seems so much more expansive right now. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of the Media 2070 project and, why it feels in this moment critical for, independent media, for, independent access to information, those kinds of things?
Yeah, absolutely, Adrienne. Thank you so much for having me. And my colleague Diamond said that she is in some sort of waiting room. I don't know what that means, but just wanted to relay that message to you while I get started. And so, when I was on previously, when we were still a project of free press, we talked about the media consolidation and how so many of our media institutions were facing threats from either the economy or these takeovers from private equity, all of these different types of things. And then now, since the election, we've seen the complete elite capture of the America's major media institutions, especially just most recently with Bari Weiss being installed as the head of CBS, who's a conservative lackey, for lack of a better term.
Right.
And then, we have the LA Times, the Washington Post, and the New York Times all owned by these tech billionaires. We're in a situation now where what I say at Media 2070 is, Black independent media might be the last line of defense. If journalism is a key for, a healthy democracy, then, our media institutions that are serving our communities and that are independent might be the last line of defense in a democracy, because it might be the last source of uncompromised information that hasn't been captured by these elite corporate interests.
So important, because I think that the Black media and Black journalism in times past has also been the last line of defense. You know what I mean? Here we're circling back, right, to the sort of, importance, right, of having that independent voice that feels so critical. So I'm gonna I think we have Diamond now. So we're gonna bring her into the conversation, but the sort of other point here is that not just about the importance of our stories, the importance of having independent media, the importance of Black narrative, and I want to talk a little bit about what that means. But we're also seeing attacks on Black journalists, right? Not new, right? I think when back a year or two ago, when we started to see Black journalists lose their shows, right? Suddenly, the faces were gone, and now we're actually seeing Black journalists, independent Black journalists, being arrested for actually doing their jobs, right? For going out and reporting and covering stories, right? That are critical right now. I want to play for you all just a little clip because we know that Don Lemon had his day in court today, right, after having been arrested last month for, again, doing his job in Minneapolis. But I want to play a little clip of what he said before he was arrested.
If you think you're going to stop me from reporting, if you think that you are going to stop and diminish my voice, then you have as my grandmother would say, you have another thing coming, because that ain't ever going to stop. I don't care what you try to do to me. I am a journalist through and through and through. And I came from strong, sturdy peasant stock that built this country for free. This is my country through and through. If anyone deserves the freedom and the rights and the Constitution of this country, it is me, this little black boy from Louisiana that came from enslaved people who have not always and still don't always have the same freedoms as white people do in this country. So for all of you people who are so aggrieved and so upset that I had the nerve to be a journalist and to exercise my freedom of expression and my freedom of the press under the Constitution, too bad.
So that's Don Lemon, right? Letting folks know. I want to bring Diamond Harden, the director of creative and narrative strategy at Media 2070, into the conversation. Welcome, Diamond.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
No, of course. Thank you both for joining. I want to come back and just get y'all's reaction to Don's piece, essentially saying, we're not going to be stopped from doing the thing, quite frankly, that we have always done, right, in this country.
Mm-hmm.
So, Diamond, let me bring you in here to that, like your response to Don. And this wasn't my apologies. This isn't before he was arrested. This was after he was arrested, but before his court date today. What's your response to Don being pretty forceful, right, and saying like, no?
No, I think that's exactly what's needed in this moment, and it's exactly what Black journalists have always done. They've been truth tellers at all costs, even when it's dangerous. They've been bold. They put themselves out on Front Street. Like, we have a long history and legacy of doing that, and he called out that legacy in his family, in his lineage. And when it comes to oppression, authoritarianism, the journalism is the first place that they attack. And like Tia had said, Black journalists have been holding the line. This is objectivity work for us. This is journalism for Black journalists. So I like it. I like the energy. It's what Black newsrooms in like Chicago, Baltimore, Kansas City are doing all the time. And so for someone with a platform like Dawn to be coming forward and to be unafraid and to not be scared in a time where a lot of just empty, well, not even empty, but where threats are getting hurled around, like we're in the McCarthy era. I think it's really important for us to use Black, capital B Black, but it's also important for us to have resources and networks in place to keep each other safe.
And Tia, I think that this is part of the importance, right, of the work that you are doing, the sort of critical work that you are doing in this moment. So your reaction to that, but also how are you all thinking about supporting Black news and Black storytelling to make sure that we're not just amplifying Dawn, right, but that we are, which we should do, right, but that we are making sure that that we are getting this sort of courageous journalism and storytelling happening everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with Diamond, my colleague. This is the work that Black journalists have always done and the threats that they have always faced in this country. And, for us to start off Black History Month with Black journalists and activists being arrested, and I also want to, put Georgia Fort's name in this as well. I think that, one of our first, kind of public acts as an independent project was to put out our statement demanding that they be released and calling out this really egregious repression. And, people really appreciated that statement. I think having Media 2070 as a political home of sorts for Black journalists and media makers who are movement-minded, who are independent, who are community-serving is really important at a time like this. And, doing things like lifting up statements. We also have an organizing space that we call the Media 2070 Consortium, where we meet every quarter. And then we also do things like, our toolkit to support Black journalists, where we're releasing resources and developing those resources to let people know, hey, we see you, we hear you. Here's just a little something to help us all get through, helping people feel connected. Along with the other work that we do is all really important.
Yeah, I just want to appreciate that that piece of the work that you are doing, because it is, not just I imagine for Black journalists around the country, the sort of sense of isolation that can happen, but also that it's just dangerous now, right? And sort of stepping out to do your job and report on what is happening in communities across the country is just very different. And so I imagine that having both those resources, but also that sort of community is an important moment. When we come forward, I want to talk to you all, obviously, more about the work of Media 2070, but also just, this month, right, in particular, how you all are thinking about what's important in terms of moving stories forward. So when we come forward, more from Tia Oso and Diamond Harden from Media 2070. Stay with us.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
Welcome back to Winter Hack Radio, the place for clever hacks to survive the season. Icy driveway? Well, try spreading sand or birdseed to help with traction. Snowy puppy paws? Well, grab a whisk, brush it off, done. Catch COVID-19? Well, just get...
Actually, there's no hack for COVID-19. But if you test positive, prescription medications for COVID exist. Ask your doctor if they're right for you. Visit PfizerForAll.com to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Pizza's here.
Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Getting around LA doesn't have to cost a lot. Metro has fares that fit every budget. 20 free rides for qualified riders through the Life Fare program. Free passes for students with GoPass and affordable options for everyone in between. Wherever you're going, Metro's got you covered. Visit metro.net/fare programs. Looking for a purposeful and passionate way to make a difference in your community? Volunteer with our Senior Medicare Patrol and help prevent Medicare fraud. S&P volunteers work in their community educating peers about healthcare fraud and how to prevent and detect it. Free training starts soon. Check us out online or at an S&P open house near you. We're on a mission to stop fraud. Join our team. You make a difference. Visit caspvolunteer.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Worried about eviction? You have rights, and Stay Housed LA can help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between LA County, the City of Los Angeles, and local service providers. From Lancaster to Long Beach, we're here to help you with tenant education workshops, legal clinics, free legal services for eligible tenants, and online resources about tenant protection laws. Don't face eviction alone. Call our hotline at 1-888-694-0040. That's 1-888-694-0040. Or visit stayhousedla.org. Stay Housed LA, keeping Los Angeles residents in their homes. Stay Housed LA, your rights, your home, our community. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's get back to more of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to the Black Pack, and we are in conversation with Tia Oso and Diamond Harden with Media 2070. So before the break, we were talking about, the importance of Black journalism right now. We were talking about the important role that Black media has played historically, and also about narrative, right? Or maybe I was just like, we're going to talk about narrative. And we didn't actually discuss it. But I do think, I realize that there are times when I use that word and I talk about Black narrative. And it's important, I think, to have a conversation about what we mean by that, right? What does Black narrative and Black narrative power mean, right? What is it that we're trying to convey? And why is it particularly important right now? So let me start with you, Tia, in answering that question. What is Black narrative power, and why is it so important right now?
Yeah, such an excellent question. And so Media 2070, we declared Black History Month, Black Narrative Power Month as a project where we are calling on people to understand and celebrate, right, commemorate and also appreciate Black media makers, Black art and culture, all of those things make up narrative. And when we're talking about power, what we really mean is the ability and the access of Black people and Black institutions to develop and distribute media, art, and culture. When we see things like, Don Lemon is an independent journalist right now because of the anti-DEI wave and anti-wokeness, right, that has taken his job and the other jobs of almost every prominent Black reporter from a corporate entity. That's why Joy Reid is an independent journalist now also. It's important for us to talk about, Karen Attia losing her post at the Washington Post.
Right.
The ability not just to have representation. Representation is important because there are, the ability of us to tell our stories. But when we're talking about ownership, right, there's a lack of ownership. It's important why we have outlets like KBLA, right, even to be able to have ownership. It means that you can control the means of distribution, you control the means of cultural production. And we're not just talking only about news media, right, but we're talking about entertainment media as well. When we're talking about entertainment media, art, culture, these are the ways that we make meaning in our society. And when those means are threatened, right, and when they are propagandized, or when they're, we have the President of the United States putting out racist stereotypes and tropes that are, as older than this country even is, right? That's narrative. That is narrative power. You don't have economic and political power without cultural power, and that's why narrative power is so important.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sort of adding in the this idea of, art and culture also, right? And the piece about making sense of what's happening. When I think about, old school, Black media, when I think about, Ida B. Wells and others, right, that to me feels like this idea, right, that we are collectively making sense, right, of what's happening in our country, what's happening in our communities, and also collectively engaging in a strategy conversation, right? Like, what do we do and what can we do? And sometimes it's because, we're not all in the same place, right? Like, we're in different places. I think about, the Pullman Porters, like taking, the newspaper across state lines and delivering it. And so sometimes it means also having the conversations in particular places. And so, Diamond, I wanted to ask you about the exhibit that you all have called Black Future Newsstand. And I know it's been, the installation has been in a few cities. There's been some virtual exhibits. But how does that help, right, in sort of, having a common conversation, giving people access, right, but also having, a common conversation and using different mediums, right, to talk about, narrative, right, but to also talk about, how we're moving the different experiences happening in Black communities around the country.
Yes, I really love what you had to say about collective meaning making and collective strategizing. That the Black Future Newsstand is a manifestation about the ways we think about that and the way that Tia just explained how we understand Black narrative power at Media 2070. And so what it is it's an in-person exhibit that has traveled across the country to Chicago, LA, Houston, Austin, and it began in New York. And what it is an opportunity for people to embody what's possible on the other side of media reparations. So in the year 2070, when we are able to control our narratives from ideation through distribution, what kind of media will be available to us? Literature, journalism, film, art, music, dance. What does that look like fully embodied when our processes are interrupted? And so Black Future Newsstand allows us to embrace all of those things and act as an entry point for the entire ecosystem that is making meaning, that is driving culture, that is recording our drafts of history. A lot of time we talk about newspapers as the first draft of history, but, we think about the archives. We think about the church bulletin as a way of recording history. So bringing all those things together so that we can look to our left and to our right and think about what are the things we need to talk about? What are the strategies that we have? How are we going to help bring each other to this future that we can all imagine and embrace?
Mm-hmm. And you said media reparations. What does that mean? Talk to us about what that means and what that looks like.
Yes. So media reparations is a future that we're aiming towards in 2070. Black people will be able to control their stories all the way from ideation through distribution without interruption. So the creative process, the means of distribution, getting it out, we'll have the resources in the space to tell our own stories rather than them being told for us, them being told to then be shipped out and exploited in different ways. It's the embodiment of Black narrative power.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is this sort of futurism, right? Like that's why I love the Media 2070, right? Because it is giving us a thing to move toward that doesn't, like I feel like it is we're in a moment where we can get just trapped in what is happening right now, right? It's overwhelming. All the news is overwhelming, and then there's so much of it. I think Tia, we might have talked about this last time. This idea that there's like the good news is there's 1,000 places for people to get their information from, and the bad news is that there's 1,000 places for people to get their news and information from. And I still feel like that's a reality for us. And when we have 1,000 different places making meaning of what is happening in the world feels harder. And so talk just a little bit, Tia, about that sort of like how we think about sort of wading through all of the information that is out there to get to ones that are going to be useful for our sort of collective progress.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's important for us to, media literacy is so important. It's more important now than ever. I think we were talking about the last time I was on the show. It's important for us to find trusted sources of information, and we need to be able to teach one another what a reliable source of information is, especially during this advent now that we have AI and deep fakes and fake news, literal fake news that is being manufactured to look like a legitimate news broadcast, but is disseminating misinformation, disinformation. So it's really important, and we, encourage people in Media 2070 to support local independent media. This is the media that is a part of your community, like KBLA, like The Objective, like LA Sentinel, like Black Wall Street Times, like The Tribe in Chicago, like Kansas City Defender, like Baltimore Beat. We always, kind of run down a litany of news outlets, and then there's independent journalists. I don't know if you're familiar with Tendencies Way Chimaranga, fantastic freelance journalist there in Los Angeles, California, who has a radio show and a YouTube channel. Very important to find and support local independent news media. And then, yes, our digital media, there are the news aggregators and the digital journalists that, are using their phones to, say what's on their mind and speak truth to power. And those are important as well, but that information does need to be vetted. And we need to make sure that the information that's being shared is reliable and not being propagandized in order to manipulate and control people's emotions, which I think happens a lot, especially with digital media and especially with the ways that people want to go viral and virality being so privileged by the algorithm.
That's right.
And so I always say to start with local independent news media, then national independent news media, and then go ahead and fill in with your commentators and digital news outlets. That's my formula, right? I can't tell anybody else what to do, but that's my best advice.
Yeah, that is really helpful advice. And support KBLA and all the other independent news outlets out there. I want to thank you all because the work that you're doing is really critical, and it's that work that's behind the scenes and that folks don't often see. And so I'm really happy to be able to lift up what you all are doing, and also just to say thank you and appreciate what we're doing, and looking forward to talking to you all again. Thank you for joining me, and also thank you to everyone else for joining. I think that it is Black Love Day, and Andy and I are excited about that. Hopefully you all have a great weekend, and join us here next Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. Stay tuned for Out of Bounds with Ray Richards and Neil Scarsborough.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Tensions flared during a Senate hearing as Josh Hawley questioned Black Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison over alleged public fraud and campaign donations from convicted fraudsters.
You took $10,000 from people who were then indicted. It's in your reports. Why'd you do it?
Republicans are also pressing him about reports of widespread fraud and alleged foreign support for anti-ICE